This is Jed Distler, and welcome to the Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings. You can subscribe to the Piano Maven podcast through my Substack page by clicking on the link in the episode description. Paid subscribers get bonuses such as Piano Maven Zoom meetings, as well as goodies from my private collection of recordings and all kinds of stuff like that. So please consider subscribing to help us reach out further into the piano community and to keep the quality as good as I can get it. Anyway, I wanted to talk about a marvelous live recital that I just discovered that has been recorded and uploaded to archive.org. Someone has been uploading a boatload of live piano recitals onto the archive.org website. And, being the insatiable piano maven that I am, of course, I've had to download a lot of these. Most of them I've downloaded sight unseen. I figured I'll just get them on the computer and I'll listen to them when I have time. I mean, when do I really have the time? But there has been a recital I've just been enjoying so much in the last few days, and I just had to tell you about it. It's a concert that features a pianist whose recordings I've always enjoyed, the German pianist Martin Helmchen. I love a lot of his Schubert and Beethoven, especially. He also has an amazing recording of the Messiaen 20 Regards sur l'Enfant Jésus. And I'm going to be talking about that recording when I eventually do an episode on the humongous piano suite of Messiaen, the 20 Regards. But I do want to talk today about a recital that you can find on archive.org. And I've posted a link in this podcast episode's description so you can hear this recital for yourself. It took place in Schwetzingen on May 4th, 2022. It must be a broadcast because the sound quality is really quite terrific. The concert begins with Bach's Partita number 1 in B flat, and occasionally Martin Helmchen gets into an affettuoso mode, but he plays Bach with so much color and imagination, and he varies his ornamentation and articulation on the repeats very tastefully and imaginatively. And he really sails through the courant with, I guess, a small dose of adrenaline. He must have had some in his pocket. And there's also a live performance of this partita with Helmchen on YouTube from the Verbier Festival. I haven't yet heard his commercial recordings of the 6 partitas. I have to make amends and listen to them pretty soon. But this Schwetzingen performance is just so captivating and creative. I mean, I really loved it. Then after the Bach, he gives a really haunting and introspective and deeply felt reading of those very special late pieces by Robert Schumann, the Gesänge der Früh, Opus 133, the morning songs. For years, these pieces were considered by many to be inferior Schumann, from his late period when he pretty much lost it. But I love these pieces, even though they don't reveal their special qualities so readily. You really have to come to Schumann. He doesn't come out to you, if you know what I mean. But it seems that more and more pianists have been taking up the Gesänge der Früh on record and also in recital. And I love this performance. I really love the rich and, almost organ-like sonorities that Martin Helmchen brings to this piece. Just beautiful, beautiful piano playing. And the next piece on this recital is quite a contrast. Bartók's Out of Doors Suite. Although Martin Helmchen brings all of the right rhythmic propulsion and incisive articulation and dynamic contrast to this music, and it really needs all these qualities, the music never sounds harsh or percussively ugly in Helmchen's hands. His clusters sing out rather than bang out in the first piece, for example. And in that first piece, the way he builds up the accelerando, he does this to really terrifying but full bodied effect. And the softer, more introspective movements also benefit from Helmchen's amazing clarity and his tone color. I think this is one of the best performances of out of doors that I've ever heard, to be perfectly honest. And then the major work on this recital is the Schubert A major sonata, the big posthumously published sonata with the Deutsch number 959. The first movement has a lightness and mobility and flexibility that prevents the strong architecture from turning overly monumental or rigid. The phrases constantly move over the bar lines in Helmchen's performance. Everything just ebbs and flows so naturally and so inevitably. He keeps the music alive and moving, and there are no dead spots in this interpretation. It's just gorgeous. And the slow movement is interesting. It starts out in an almost sweet and disarming way. And Helmchen builds that really harrowing climax with great care in terms of his control of the tempo and his scaling of the dynamics. Now, it doesn't quite approach the intensity and tumultuous breaking point that you get from a pianist like Claudio Arrau or in the Christian Zimmermann recording or even Maurizio Pollini's recording. Now, I wouldn't say that Helmchen is cool-headed, but he certainly doesn't open the floodgates of emotion and let himself go. But his sense of concentration and his classical poise, I think, really compensate. And it's just beautiful playing. And the scherzo just dances off the page so lightly and with such suppleness in Martin Helmchen's hands. You get none of that fussy micromanaging or those mannered tenutos or the hicky little accents that you hear from other pianists who shall remain nameless. You know, pianists whose initials are Alfred Brendel or Alexander Lonquich. But the finale is gorgeous also, and it mirrors interpretively what Helmchen does in the first movement regarding his effortless control and the unforced lyricism and the sheer variety of articulation. Now, maybe Pollini's recording digs a little deeper in the main theme. I don't know. But look, Martin Helmchen plays this finale so beautifully. He plays the whole sonata wonderfully. This is incredibly cultivated Schubert playing. It's a great fusion of fingers and musicality and heart. And for the encores, we get this exquisitely timed reading of Schumann's Prophet Bird from Waldsennen. And then we hear a more introspective and more poetic, and I would even say more profound rendition of Franz Liszt's Au bord d'une source than one usually hears. Some people play this piece as a brisk and rippling etude, which is a valid approach. But in Martin Helmchen's hands, this music becomes a tone poem rather than a showpiece. This is just such a wonderful recital from one of today's truly exceptional pianists and musicians. And if you go to the link that I provided, you can download it and hear for yourself just how special this recital is. This is Jed Disler, and you've been listening to The Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to being with you for the next episode. Be well.